Hello. All right, welcome to our first video lecture. You're going to get these a couple times this year just because of the virtual Fridays. Unfortunately, I really wish I was there today because I have some activities to do with this, but we'll just have to wait till Monday. Cool. So speaking of Monday, you'll get your quizzes back, and we'll kind of finish up some other stuff. I think that's it. You should be reading Unit 2. You should have started on that. You really want to come in to class being like, oh yeah, I read that, I understand that, rather than looking up what you don't understand or just kind of doing them side by side is the best way. Promise. Okay? And then also, I think after next week, then we have our test. I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think it's on 2 Wednesdays from now, maybe. All right. Okay, so yesterday we talked about common sense and science and how a lot of times they don't really mix and that we need science in order to draw logical conclusions or else they're just theories. So in psychology, they use a couple of different ways to study people and behaviors and patterns in a scientific way. Okay, so today I'm going to kind of go through the basics of some of them, and then we'll get into them a little bit more on Monday with our activities. Sound good? Okay, so I want you to grab this worksheet out if you haven't already gotten it out. So these are basically the main ways that psychologists study things, and you can pick anything. You can pick depression. You can pick, I want to know how people act in groups. I want to know how men different from women in regards to anything, aggression. Okay? Alright, so I'm sure you've heard of some of these, but I'm just going to go through them. So what I would do, let's see if this works. I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing. Is I'm going to give you kind of the definition on the left, and then we'll talk about pros and cons, and the vocab is actually what we'll probably get to on Monday. Alright? Some of them. Okay, so a case study is basically when you want to study one entity. I know that's confusing. So I want to study one person in depth. So I'm going to write an in-depth study of one. I'm going to write entity because what that means is it can be an individual or it can be a group. Alright, so I want to do an in-depth study on heritage. You see that is a group, right? It's a group. Or I want to do an in-depth study on Allie Browning. I think she's crazy, so I want to do a study on her. So anyway, I want an in-depth study. So how do you do that? A lot of times it's a ton of documentation, but you go and you maybe follow that person around. You go ask questions, you observe. So if somebody that has been done before, where they come and do a study on heritage, they're going to write down a ton of stuff. They're going to document a ton of stuff. They're going to ask questions. They're going to look at, depends on what they want to look at. Are they looking at buildings, or are they looking at the style of people that come here? Are they looking at safety? Whatever it is. An in-depth study on one entity. Okay? It could last for days, weeks. You could follow somebody for a year. So I'm going to pull this up. Okay, so there was a case study done on this girl. We're going to actually watch the video later. It goes along with a different chapter. But basically she was abused by her parents, and they found her at age 13, I think. I think that's right. And she couldn't talk. She couldn't walk. And they wanted to know, their parents were abusive, that could they get this girl to talk? Could they teach her at this late of an age? And so they do all these learning or language development things with her, and just a massive case study on her. They looked at her history with her parents. And anyway, we're going to watch it, but that's a case study there. At like colleges, this is Stanford Business. they do a ton of this in business school. They go look at different companies. I want to do a case study on Coca-Cola, right, and how they are successful. So, or this one right here. I want to do a case study on this pharmaceutical company. What else we got? I remember when in my business class that I had to do a study on Cisco. We had to do a study on like Home Depot. Massive case study. All right. I think you get the point. Okay, so pros. You get a ton of information, right? Okay, ton of info, right? You get, I mean, that's really your biggest pro, is that it's in-depth. You get a ton of data that you can sift through. Now, the negative. Okay, what would be a negative of spending that much time? Well, I gave it to you. It's time, right? It takes a lot of time. And usually, because it takes time, it takes a lot of money. Now, a big negative. Let's say that I want to study teenagers, okay? And then I go and I follow Allie Browning around for a whole year. I get a ton of information on her. Now, is Allie a good representation of all teenagers? No, she's not, right? She's very different than a lot of other 18-year-olds. I think you're 18, right? A lot of other 18-year-olds. So if you think about heritage, right, it's such a specific group of people. She's a specific race. If you even go to a different school in Noonan, it's very different. Or if you go up to New York or wherever you want to go. The negative here of a case study is that it is not generalizable. How about that big word? Generalizable. What that means is you can't generalize your findings with Allie to the bigger population. Yeah, it's great information, but it's only on one person. You can't generalize it. Sound good? All right, that's a case study. Okay, next one. So I'm going to have you do stuff later, by the way. Okay, a survey. You know what a survey is. You've taken plenty of surveys in your life. All right, survey, a questionnaire sent or given to lots of individuals. Okay. Give me a second while I write that. Can you hear that? That's Madame Browning. And this wall behind me. Okay, so survey. I'm sure you've filled these out before. There are scientific surveys, right? Ones that are scientific, and then there's which Jersey Shore character are you, right? Which Pretty Little Liars person are you? I'm trying to connect to the younger generation here. I don't even know if you watched Pretty Little Liars. Okay, what's a better one? What TV show? Game of Thrones, that's really big. Hopefully you're not any one of those characters. Anyway, those are surveys too, right? You answer questions. Okay, pro is, think about this, it is cheap, right? It's a piece of paper. And because it's cheap, you can send it out to a lot of people, right? So lots of participants. Okay. And because of that, you can get a lot of information. Large amount of data, but unfortunately, you might not get in depth, right? Okay. Now, one of the big negatives. All right. I remember our old school, they had to send out it was like a safety survey at the public school, and just to see if kids felt safe. All right. Now, a good thing about a lot of surveys, not all of them, is that you are anonymous. Okay, so those people, if you're anonymous, you feel like you can be more, what? Good job, Will. I heard you. You said truthful or honest. Okay? So that, yeah, if the survey question asked about like drugs, and so if the question says, do you do drugs? How many times a week? Whatever. Because you're anonymous, you might feel more okay with being open and honest there. However, it's also a con. I'm putting anonymous over here too. Why would that be a negative? Because you can lie, right? You can be funny. People try to do that all the time. Like, oh yeah, I do drugs 20 times a week. Okay, so people can put there lie. All right, and there's no following up to make sure somebody's truthful. Okay, and the negative I just said too was there is no in depth, right? Not in depth. Okay. All right. So let me look here. Let's see. Okay, this is on the BBC. Now, these might not be the most scientific ones. Let's look up one. All right, let's see. Ooh, your personality. That's fun. We'll talk about that later. Oh, good. Great. The lab is closed. Cool. How about, can you compete under pressure? Oh, great. It's closed, too. I'm glad I did my research here. I'll try one more, and then this is a bust. Art and personality. Hey, there we go. Have you taken part before in this? No. Alright, how old am I? I'm not telling you guys. I'm 18. Okay. I'm just kidding. I don't care. I'm 31. Female. I hope this doesn't get personal here. Level of education, graduate. Right? Other college, yeah. Okay. Prior knowledge, I don't have much. How often do you visit? Rarely. Ain't got time for that. With a toddler. Her art. Does her art count? Okay. Scientist or an artist? Definitely not an artist, so. Do I draw or paint for pleasure? I'm sorry, I'm not an artist. And I'm right. Okay. This is total survey stuff right here. Okay? I'm going to do one more page, and then I think you're going to get the point. Oh, great. Great, page not found. Okay, don't care. You can go do those if you want to. That's a survey. Alright. Okay, follow-up question here. Let's say I want to study teenagers. Okay? And high schoolers. Let's start with that. I want to study high schoolers. So how that is going to be called the population. The ideal group that you want to study. That's my word, ideal group. That's not your book definition. Okay, so that is going to be, I'm going to put in parentheses, high schoolers. Alright? But I do not have enough time to go around to the whole world and talk to all the high schoolers. And I probably should be more specific. High schoolers in America, right? Or you could be more specific in Georgia. Or you could say private schools in Georgia. High school students in private schools in Georgia. Okay, that's your goal. Now, I do not have enough paper, I don't have enough time, I don't have money to send out a survey to all these high schoolers in Georgia or in America. So, what I do is I get a sample. Okay? So right there. A sample is the group that you actually do study. Okay? So I'm going to write sample, the people you actually study. Alright? But it has to be a random sample. Okay? So let's say that so I want to do Georgia. Let's say America. Okay, high schoolers in America. If I decide to pick 1,000, alright, and I only do ones in New York and New Jersey, that's not going to be an accurate representation of America. So I have to get a random sample. And a random sample gives, alright, ready? Gives all participants an equal opportunity of being represented. So if I got a random sample of all upper school or high school students in America, ideally everyone will be represented. So I'm going to have the same amount of minorities, same amount of men and females that are actually in America. That's what my group will ultimately represent. Sounds a lot like stats, because this is a little bit of stats. Trying to think if there's anything else to say about that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's say I want to study heritage, upper school students. What is that, like 100 and something students? I don't have time. I don't want to do everybody, so I need to get a sample. Let's say I'm going to only sample 40. Okay? How do I make sure that that sample is random? If I just give it to the first 40 people that show up at school that day, that's not random, because there's probably some kind of personality trait about those first 40 people that are different from the last 40 people that show up to school that day. And so then I won't represent everybody, right? It's going to be my lazy people versus my early birds. But I want all of them so I can study heritage. So how do I do it? How do I get a random sample? There's two main ways. Okay, one is that you input all the names into some kind of list on your computer, and the computer randomly generates it. Right? They randomly generate it, and then you get your list. The other, easier / more time consuming, so not easier, put all the names in a hat and draw out. Make sure it's all mixed and draw out 40. Okay, and there's your list. So there, it's random, but it represents your entire population. Sound good? Cool. Good talk. All right. Alright, and again, this is going to be fun if I actually was with you. Okay. How long are we at? 17 minutes? Okay. Alright. An observation. I want to study how kids socialize. Okay, maybe that's what I want to study. So, what I do, I go and observe them, and I write down a lot of things, right? Is it different if I observe them in a lab, or where they know that they're in a scientific setting, versus I want to study preschoolers and I watch them on the playground? That sounds creepy. Don't do that. Okay? In order for them to be most in their normal selves, they need to be in their natural habitats. Okay? Makes it sound like animals. It's on the left, where it says naturalistic observation. Alright? You want to write, I'm trying to think of a different word than observing. Watching participants in their natural habitat. Sound good? Naturalistic observation. We're going to go do this on Monday. We're going to go observe heritage. Alright. Pros. Let's say I go and I want to watch kids on the playground. I go and I watch. I'm going to write down everything I see. It's going to be a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of information. Alright. I'm going to see them in their natural habitat versus like a survey. I'm not going to get to actually see them, right? So I actually get to see and experience the participants. Negatives. Alright, let's say that Celia is sitting next to me. We're both watching and writing things down. Is she going to write different things than me? Yes, right? So I'm going to say it's subjective data. Okay, so she could write totally different stuff than I did. It's not objective. Also, you have to be very specific in what we're actually looking for. So if I tell Celia and I come together and say, okay, we want to see how many fights that we see, that's more objective, right? But I'm going to have to say you have to be very specific in data collection. What you want. Okay? Does it take time? Yes. And sorry. Another pro here. Well, no, sorry. Okay. I'm not going to do these two on the right, because we're going to do that on Monday. All right. Natural, because observation, you could go to a bar and watch people. No, you guys can't. Okay, you could go to the mall and watch people. You could go to a football game and just watch. Oh man, that's good people watching. You do get a lot of interesting information about observation. Right? It's a good study tool. But you have to be very specific. Okay. Oh, so I'm going to show you. So, like in this video. Oh, hi Aaron Cohen. I don't know who you are. Okay. You're getting kids' interactions here. What is going to be beneficial here is if these kids don't know they are what? Being watched. So I want to see if these kids, I have not watched this video, if they think, or if they know they're being watched. That girl kind of made eye contact a second ago. Oh, she's kind of, I think this camera is inside. Okay? However, I don't think it really affects kids a whole lot. Okay? I'm going to stop that. Now, have you seen those things where they do, like those two-way mirrors? One-way mirror? Where you can watch kids, but they don't know they're being watched? That is good because they don't know they're being watched. However, they're in a lab, right? And it doesn't feel like a natural habitat. Alright. Our last one for the day is a correlation. Okay. I want you to look at this word right here. Alright. Correlation. What root word is in there? Relation. Okay, so a relationship. Alright, so I'm going to kind of go through this PowerPoint a little bit, and then we'll kind of fill out some of those things. Okay. Alright, so correlation is basically a statistical procedure that computers do. And you insert a lot of data into it, and then the computer tells you the relationship. Sound vague? Good. Alright, so question for you. Are studying and GPA related? What do you think? If you're in an AP class, you probably do care about studying. Alright, so yes, I would say they're related, right? Are brushing your teeth and the number of cavities you have related? Yeah, probably. Okay, are money and happiness related? Now this I wish I could ask and hear you guys' responses, because this usually has some arguments behind it. Money and happiness. We actually talk about this in a later chapter. Some people are thinking, no, there's people that are in third world countries that don't have a lot of money but are totally happy. But then other people are saying, yeah, but if you don't have your basic necessities met, then you're not happy. Cool. We'll wait till a different chapter. Are height and temperament related? Temperament means kind of your emotional reactivity. Are you laid back? Are you tightly wound? Or do you get emotional quickly? Or are you pretty chill and laid back? Okay, height. What do you say? What do you think? Height and temperament is the Napoleon complex. Is that really a thing? Shoot, I wish I was there to ask you guys these things. Okay, so your definition on that worksheet, if you want to write this down. A correlation on the far left. Studies done to determine if two variables are related. Okay, so here are my variables here. Studying and GPA. Oh, look how great I'm underlining. Studying is a variable and GPA is a variable. What do you think? Are they related? The more studying you do, what? The higher GPA? Okay, so brushing your teeth is a variable and number of cavities is a variable. Money and happiness are variables. Gosh, this is terrible. Height and temperament. Alright. So that's what a correlation is. Okay? So when two variables are related, we say they correlate. So studying and GPA, they correlate. If there's no relationship, we say, no, they don't correlate. Now, here's another thing. Some variables can correlate more strongly than others. So on here, I would say probably that brushing your teeth and the number of cavities, that's probably a strong relationship. It's a strong correlation. Now, money and happiness, maybe it's not as strong. Maybe they do have a relationship, but it's not as strong as the other one. Okay? Alright. Okay, let me see. I think on your paper, on the right, there's a place to write this, but alright. So I don't want you to think this is a big misconception. Negative does not mean bad, and positive does not mean good. Okay, so get rid of that in this situation. Negative does not mean bad, and positive does not mean good. Okay? Alright, in this scenario, negative means one goes up, one goes down. One goes up, one goes down. The more you brush your teeth, the less cavities you get. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this slide really quick. My bad pen. Okay, so brush your teeth. The more, I'm going to draw an arrow, the more you brush your teeth, what happens to the number of cavities? It goes down. Okay, that's called a negative relationship. One goes up and one goes down. If you want to write that over there on the right, one goes up, one goes down. Now, what about the less you brush your teeth? Okay, so the less you brush your teeth, right, down arrow, what happens to the number of cavities? It goes up. So no matter how you kind of word that there, one goes up and one goes down. That is a negative correlation. Okay? So what if you argue here, money and happiness? The more money you have, what happens to happiness? Some people would say that the less happiness you have. Okay? Some people say, no, they're not related. So some of you argue, alright, some of you argue the more money you have, what happens to happiness? The more happiness you have. Okay? So this right here is not a positive correlation. Right? So positive means that they both go up or they both go down. They move together. Okay? So the more you study, the higher your grade is. Higher your GPA is. There's a positive correlation. Now you can also say the less you study, what happens to your grade? The lower your grade is. Alright? They both go up, they both go down. I'm talking about the same scenario. So that's what a negative versus a positive looks like. I'm going to have you guys practice this in a second. Okay? Alright. And the final piece here is what number it is. Okay, so basically, okay, you're going to put this data into into your computer. Okay, so let's do grades and GPA. Maybe I'll send out a survey, and I want to see how much people study. So I go and I ask all that, and then I find out what their GPA is. Okay, and then I put all that data into the computer, and it's going to find a correlation number. It gives you a number, either -1 to +1. It can't go past that. Okay, so maybe it should be arrows on the end, but -1 to +1. Okay, and like I said, correlations can be strong or they can be weak, right? Some things are more strongly connected than others. All right, so the number that spits out, if that number is close to +1 or -1, it is considered strong. That is a strong correlation. Now, if it's weak, it's basically a near zero. There's really no relationship between the two. Okay? So, a 0.87 relationship between happiness and chocolate, and this is positive. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. 0.87. So that positive, right? That's pretty close. That's over here. So is that strong or weak? Strong. It's a strong correlation. That means chocolate and happiness are related. Right? They affect each other. And now you got to do the positive versus negative. It's a positive. So you've got happiness. That means positive, that they're both going in the same direction. Okay? The more chocolate you eat, the happier you are. Okay? They're both going the same direction. Or the less chocolate you eat, the less happy you are. Sound good? Okay. What does a 0.08 relationship mean between athleticism and hair color? Alright, so you got to go back to that thing. 0.08. 0.08. That means that's very close to 0. Okay? Did it say it's positive or negative? It's positive. It doesn't have a negative symbol. 0.08 means there's no correlation. You don't even really have to say that it's positive or negative. That is so close to 0. That means athleticism has nothing to do with hair color. Okay? Alright, this one. A negative 0.46 relationship between testosterone and aggression. I want you to figure that one out in your head real quick, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, negative 0.46, so that's like right here, right? Okay, negative, first of all, that means one goes up, one goes down. That means that the more testosterone you have, the less aggressive you are. Right? The less aggression you have. Now, is that real in real life? No. I'm trying to kind of make sure you understand negative and positive. Even though I'm trying to trick you. Okay? So that's what that means. Now, is it strong? Remember, negative doesn't mean good, positive doesn't mean bad. In your mind, you're like, oh, it's not very close to 1. Right? However, this is kind of important. In real life, you're never going to get a 1 correlation. Right? You're never going to get that number. Because things aren't causing each other that much. Right? So actually a 0.4 is a pretty good correlation. Pretty real life correlation. Okay? Scatter, I don't want to talk about that right now. Okay, this is huge. Correlation does not prove causation. Just because two things are related doesn't mean that one causes the other. Okay, so for example, research has found with more ice cream eaten, there's more crime reported. This is true. Okay? More ice cream eaten, there's more crime reported. So, you cannot say, just because there's a correlation, you can't say that ice cream causes crime. Right? Correlation does not prove causation. Because a lot of times, you can't say that this proves that ice cream causes crime. Right? The point is, because a lot of times, you're just using survey data, right? You're not doing an experiment, which we'll talk about later. But those two variables, ice cream and crime, there's probably some other third variable down here that is actually the more of a cause. So, any ideas what it is? What's that third variable that's related here? So when do people eat ice cream more often? Okay, so my computer just shut down, so I'm going to try and pick up. Hopefully, I'm going to end quickly. Right? So when do people eat ice cream? In the summer, right? And in the summer, it is hotter, so people are more testy, they're aggressive, all right? Also, people are out of school in the summer, so that's also a time when crime goes up. Anyway, so both of those things are kind of that. It's called a confounding variable or a third variable. That's, anyway, the lesson is that's why you can't say that correlation proves causation. All you can say is correlation shows a relationship between the two. Here's another one for you. The longer you're married, the more gray hair you have. It's a true correlation. They are correlated, but marriage does not cause gray hair. What's the third variable there? How long you're married? It's age, right? Age. That's the outside variable. Okay? So correlation does not prove causation. Remember that phrase. Correlation does not prove causation. Alright, and then the last just idea here is, okay, this word called an illusory correlation. That basically means that you think, it's kind of an illusion correlation, you think that there's a relationship between the two, but you haven't done a study on it, so you don't really know. So when you perceive a relationship between two variables, that does not really exist. Any ideas? Okay, usually superstitions. Like, if I wear these socks, I'm going to play well. Right? There's no data on that. That's what you just think there's a relationship between those two. Okay? Four-leaf clovers, rabbit's feet, right? Things like that. Also, people a lot of times say, oh yeah, rain makes my knees hurt, blah, blah, blah. That is, people kind of trick themselves into, oh yeah, there's a relationship between the two. But it's not real. Okay? Alright, cool. So let's see. No, discard. If you go here, we'll fill this out real quick. A study that shows the relationship between two variables. Okay? And a good thing here is that it helps predict things. If you know that there's a relationship between studying and GPA, then I can predict that you are not going to do it because of your studying, right? Your GPA is not going to be good. It helps predict, right? It shows relationships. The big negative, though, it does correlation does not prove causation. Okay, we said a positive correlation or when two variables. I'm going to write this in your terms. Okay, go up or down together. So that would be studying and GPA. And then a negative correlation would be when two variables when one variable goes up and the other goes down. So, brushing your teeth and cavities. Okay? And lastly, we already talked about illusory correlation is when you perceive a relationship between two variables that isn't there. Cool? Okay, so what I want you to do with the rest of the time is I want you to first fill this out. Okay? Basically, I want you to write a positive and negative, or you think there's no relationship here. So I'll do this first one with you. Number of hours of TV watch and your GPA. I don't know how to do this, but I draw arrows on here if I was you. So what do you think? The more TV you watch, so I'm going to draw an upward arrow, what do you think happens to your GPA? Up or down? Or not, or no relationship? I'd probably put it down. So that would be a negative correlation over here. And one more, wealth, we already did this one. Wealth and happiness, this is kind of your opinion. They would have to do a study on this to find out. The more wealth you have, what happens to happiness? Up or down? That's up to you. I'll let you decide. Okay, so I want you to do that. And then I want you to do this. I'm just going to let you kind of try that, and we'll talk about it on Monday. All right. Hope that helped. I'll see you Monday. Okay, those are the two things I want you to do. Okay, bye.